I'll just start that again. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting of 15th of June at 7 p.m. And the first Cabinet meeting of the municipal year. So we are being live streamed. So if we can make sure that we keep all of our comments short, sharp to get through, because there is quite, for once, a large agenda for the first Cabinet meeting. Normally it's just one or two catch-up items. So I'm going to move on to apologies first of all. Matt, can I have a list of the apologies, please?
Yes, Chair. I've received apologies from Councillor Duffin, Councillor Jeffreys and Councillor Maney.
Thank you very much for that, Matt. I'm going to move on to the minutes, which are found between pages 5 and 24. Has any member got any queries, questions in relation to the minutes? None at all. No. In that case, Councillor Coxwell?
Only that I'd like to thank the leaving cabinet members who have left this. This was the first one, so sorry.
But thank you anyway. So in that case, can I move that the minutes be approved? Approved. Agreed. Moving on to item 3, items of urgent business. There are no items of urgent business that I've accepted for this evening's meeting. Item 4, any declarations of interest in relation to any of the matters that we will be making a decision on this evening? On that table? None? No, none. Excellent. So move on to my statements. Well, first of all, this is, as I say, the first Cabinet meeting of this year. We've obviously lost 1 or 2 councillors. We've got a new Cabinet, which is great. It's a shame that we've got 1 or 2 missing this evening, but I understand the reasons why. We will be obviously continuing to meet in person as we move forward, where officers are required for reports. So, for instance, this evening, Councillor Hewling, you have a number of reports. The relevant officers in the future will be here, not virtual, and that will make for, my personal view, much better viewing for residents, whether that be live streamed or viewed at a later stage. That's one of the things that we've all agreed moving forward, which is good. We're out of the pandemic. We're now moving into the new normal. I hate that term. I really have become too low that term, but we've got a brand new building, £9.8 million worth of fantastic building. We will be using it to its maximum capabilities. So with that over, I'm going to move to the good news. It was great to see the borough come together to celebrate every single day of the Jubilee weekend. There were community events right across the borough, including street parties, and 5 beacons were lit, including me having the privilege of lighting the one at Tilbury Fall. Seeing all of the pictures of the community throughout the Jubilee weekend was absolutely fantastic. And I know that a number of Cabinet members and indeed our members attended so many, which was, like, for those that did, especially Councillor Abbas, that they were just, number one, so well attended, they were everywhere, and we did really well. And indeed, I've not seen a mayor out so often as our mayor during the Jubilee, which was absolutely fantastic. Apart from, obviously, the internal stuff within the borough, Thurrock was also represented by the thank you dance, at the thank you dance on Sunday the 5th with 50 volunteers from Thurrock dancing. I did actually manage to see that bit. It was really quite impressive. Also to hear Thurrock name sort of being pronounced by the BBC was just like, yeah, we're doing it outside the borough, which is absolutely fantastic. These are all community-led events to provide further proof of what we already know. Our excellent and close-knit communities are one of the borough's best assets. And I'm going to expand on that because this weekend, also last weekend, we also had the honour of attending the opening of the new Little Thurrock Community Park in Delafields. The project's turned a piece of scrubland barely used for decades into a park that is absolutely outstanding. All the work has been done by community volunteers, financed by donors and local businesses, either in money or materials, with a small amount of input from the council, taking rubbish away and supplying grass seed for the fantastic lawns. All of this has come together over the past couple of years to make a brilliant open space and again, a fantastic example of community-led projects and residents pulling together to achieve excellent results without having to rely on the taxpayer to fund it. Last week's planning committee granted permission to construct a new government-funded primary school and nursery in Averley. The Harrier Primary School, which is due to be built on land adjacent to the A13 and Love Lane in Averley, will provide spaces for up to 420 primary-aged students and 52 nursery places, and is targeted to open around September 23. Again, showing that there is an infrastructure deficit within Thurrock. We're getting that addressed through our government, so that our current communities can start to expand and thrive before anything else starts coming in with the brilliant infrastructure for expansion plans that Councillor Coxall, as part of the local plan, is moving forward. Not necessarily in Averley, but right across the whole of the borough. Also, unfortunately, in the same area, but thanks to residents reporting this, an operation involving our environmental enforcement officers, trading standards team, Essex Police took place in a site in Averley. During the search, officers found stolen motorbikes, 3 containers full of potentially unsafe goods, which are now being investigated by our trading standards team and the police. The owners of the site have been issued with notices to produce documents to show correct disposal of waste, and a fixed penalty notice has been issued for other matters. This operation and the criminality is uncovered shows the importance of residents report suspicions to us and or the police. This can be done using our website, thurrock.gov.uk, which has tools to report a wide variety of issues, and also through Essex Police's Digital 101 service, or by calling 101 on the telephone, through Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111, or of course 999 if there is an emergency at the time. And building on from this, we all remember the chaos caused by the fuel protesters in the past few months. And I'm pleased to announce that we've been successful in extending the injunction that prevents fuel protesters from blocking public roads in the borough. Their activities not only cause disruption here, but cost more than £1 million the emergency services to deal with them, which also took vital services away from where they're needed the most in their community across the country. It was not just Essex Police and Essex Fire Service here, it was police forces from Scotland all the way through to Devon and Cornwall. And obviously like to extend our thanks to all of them that helped us and kept traffic moving as best they could. As well as extending this injunction, 222 of the named people on the injunction now have to pay 50% of the costs of obtaining said injunction, which removes some of the burden on the taxpayer in relation to this. I'd like to thank the High Court judge that awarded that. It's just a shame that he couldn't award 100% of those charges to those that caused all those problems. Also, back on to planning. Last week, Thames Enterprise Park was given permission to go ahead. This will be one of the largest, most ambitious brownfield regeneration projects in the southeast of England. It will breathe new economic life into the former Corrigan oil refinery site, creating up to 5,500 new jobs and adding more than 350 million per year to the economy. The site will be home to the advanced manufacturing and next generation energy, fuel and storage businesses, positioning Thurrock not only in the heart of logistics and distribution, but also a leading player in the decarbonisation agenda across the country. It is a clear sign that Thurrock is open for business and is set to become the powerhouse for the UK's economy, whilst creating fantastic opportunities for our local residents to prosper. It will also play a pivotal role in the long-term success of the Freeport, which will see more than £4.5 billion of new investment and private investment into Thurrock at its heart. When the Mayor said we need to become the new square mile or new city, he's not far wrong. The amount of development will happen and the input that will come into Thurrock because of the Freeport and because of other opportunities that hang off of that will be phenomenal. And we'll be looking as we go through this year as how we can fully monopolise that and make sure that our residents who will take the brunt of some of the problems that this will cause are properly compensated through much better services, through more retention of our money collected in Thurrock to remain in Thurrock. Normal clean it, cut it, fill it update. So during 2021-22, we filled, according to this, 3,888 potholes, which is more than 99% in time. We cleared 1,953 fly tips, removed over 2,734 tonnes of waste from our streets, issued 4,545 fixed penalty notices for offences including littering, spitting and dropping of cigarette ends. It is my intention now for the Clean It, Cut It, Fill It and similar stats to be put in monthly in the weekly newsletter, so all residents can see what we've achieved from a fixed point in time this year and cumulatively since we took administration just over 6 years ago. We regularly know, we knock on the doors, people say you haven't filled potholes, you haven't done this, you haven't done that. And we, as a local authority, have filled thousands and thousands of potholes since 2016, probably more than we've ever done before. We need to make sure that everyone gets to know that and appreciate that and what to do if they see a pothole that meets our criteria, as an example. Finally, we're expecting very high temperatures for the rest of the week, with forecasters saying that Friday will see us in the mid-30s range. It's easy to forget to take proper care of ourselves during the heat, so really vital that everyone stays hydrated, takes a moment to cool off safely, and look out for those who are more susceptible to the heat, such as the young and our older residents and those that may not be well. And if you're out in the sun, be it in the garden, pub or the park, don't forget to put your sunscreen on. There's some excellent advice available online, especially at the NHS website, on what to do during the heat wave. So with that, I'm going to move on to item 6, which is briefings on policy, budget and other issues. Are there any statements on briefing, policies, budgets and other issues? Looking up and down across the table? No? None? So I will move on to item 8, which is questions from non-exec members. Matt, I'm looking at you to confirm there are no questions.
There aren't, Chair, and also item 7, petitions submitted.
Oh, sorry, I skipped petitions. Thank you very much for reminding me. So there's neither petitions nor questions. Thank you for that. Matters referred to Cabinet for consideration by an Overview and Scrutiny Committee. We've got none. And that case, we'll move on to item 10, which is page 25 to 56, which is Thurrock Health and Wellbeing Strategy Refresh, which is Councillor Keeling.
Sorry. You'll notice on the first page the chair's forward didn't make it to your copy. I can assure you I have written it and it's been submitted to officers. Not sure why it's not there yet or been given as an extra document. I can't ask, there's no officers here. My accountable officers are on holiday. As the government works towards stronger alliances between the NHS and local authorities to deliver better care, it's a statutory duty for the Health and Wellbeing Board to produce a health and wellbeing strategy. And it's according to the government that the NHS takes duty to take due regard of the local authorities' health and wellbeing strategy when delivering their services. This strategy, together with the local plan, are the two highest level strategic papers to engage partners, and the Health and Wellbeing Board is how members can scrutinise and ask for accountability of processes and decisions and delivery of health services by both Council and NHS. Beneath this strategy document lies over 140 pages of further detail and numerous service strategies to feed into it in order to deliver the health improvements for all residents, focusing on areas of health inequalities and plans to improve. Because health and wellbeing isn't just about medical stuff, it's about where we live, being able to get jobs, it's about communities, quality leisure time. And so for this reason, we need to take a holistic approach like this refresh strategy. As you can see, it's divided into 6 priority domains of focus, such as staying healthier for longer, opportunity for all, housing and environment. We have many great voluntary organisations supporting residents within the community with a wide range of experiences and advice to share. So the consultation process for this strategy has been wide and varied to gain insight, and their input has been invaluable in shaping this strategy. I'd like to thank all those organisations and members that have had an input and took part in the consultation, along with public health and officers involved in collating the numerous stats and data to identify the areas we need to tackle. Going forward as Chair of Health Wellbeing Board, I'm looking this year to ask what each of these domains will be doing to level up the playing field, what actions are going to be taken and when, in order to start delivering this ambitious programme. This needs to be a year of action so that next year we can start to review and look for accountability and adapt as necessary to achieve a more level playing field for all. For this reason, I'd welcome your review and comments of the document.
Thank you, Councillor Hewlin. It is quite disappointing that your forward isn't in there. I know it was submitted in plenty of time. Matt, can we make sure that before any copy goes up on the website, I know this is on the agenda for this evening in this same format, but can we make sure that nothing goes out before the Chair's forward is put on? And indeed the Chair's forward is made available to all elected members and indeed the public as a separate document on this and directed to elected members. It's, I know how much time she spends on this. Because as all my cabinet members do, they do consult with me, sometimes at length, sometimes repeatedly at length, just to make sure it's right and it's the right thing to do. And it's when Councillor Hewlin does such fantastic work on this, it's invariably no more than one or two telephone calls, and I don't have to correct her. It's the same with pretty much most of the cabinet here on all subjects. It's very, very rare, so it's a bit annoying not to see your good work. I know it's not a huge tome, but it adds quite a lot of weight and context to this document. So that little bit out of the way. Anyone got any questions or statements? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor, for what's really a very welcome and detailed report. We have a large number of children and young people in our borough. As the report states, with just under 26% of our population under the age of 18. So whilst I appreciate your report relates to a health and wellbeing strategy, I would ask if you could speak with officers to see how we might include some details raised by Thurrock Local Safeguarding Children Partnership in a paper that's actually going to Children's ONS tomorrow, and in particular under the headings of Think Family and Transitions and Transfers. I appreciate that I'm asking for safeguarding issues to be included in a health and wellbeing strategy. However, I do believe that the two are linked. And we know that families don't exist in isolation and how important it is to respond to needs during developmental life stages of children and young people, giving them the best start in life. The multi-agency approach is all important here, and I would like to think that this might add to the strategic approach and would appreciate your consideration to this request. And I look forward to your chairmanship of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for a very relevant question. What I can say at this point is that the document that you've seen here is like the overarching broad spectrum area to focus. Underneath that, there's like a myriad of strategies in each service area feeding into that. That's being collated so that we can see which strategies affect which bits, and that's a document that's taking quite a bit of work, but it will come together with the 140 odd plus pages of the full-size document. What I have noticed is that transition to adulthood for children is mentioned across many domains within housing, support, mental health, and also within the Better Care Together Thurrock strategy, which I think comes next month to Cabinet. But within there is that focus, that case for further change, and it places more emphasis on working much more holistically with people requiring support, taking into account the wider detriments of their health and well-being. So this will inevitably include the relationships that they have with families and the wider networks, and will as a consequence adopt a think family approach. The Better Care Together Thurrock case for further change is an integral part of the health and well-being strategy. What I will do, though, is when I catch up with officers when they're back from holiday, is just re-emphasise this, and we'll make sure that there is some focus in there as we go forward, for sure. Safeguarding is paramount.
Thank you both. Councillor Spillman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hewlin, for this report. We share a director, and we share a director who's got a passion for integrated services. So I'm really pleased to see not just in the reports but also in conversation with council officers, how important housing and health and children's services working in a much more linked up way in the future is going to be. I can't maintain a properly, a housing department to the level that I would like to without a lot of help from public health and a lot of help from children's services. So I really welcome the really joined up approach, because I cut my teeth in Thurrock dealing with local council as a caseworker from outside this organisation, and they were silos. They were the huge, great, thick concrete walls between different departments was just a never-ending frustration for me. So I'm really pleased to see that cultural shift that's been going on over the last few years under this administration continue, and you'll see it not just in this strategy but in the housing strategy that I hope to bring to committee, is coming to committee in a couple of weeks, which will hopefully be brought to cabinet as well. So I really do appreciate and look forward and quite excited about where we go forward from here. Thank you.
That's you.
Thank you, Councillor Spillman. You've summed it up really. We definitely have a director and a public health director, as well as adult social care and housing director, that are absolutely passionate about getting this right and joined up working. All three of us have said to each other, we are so pleased that we've been able to bring adult social care and health and wellbeing together as we go forward, and we see from the next paper those changes on board to get that joined up working with housing, with all other areas, with community safety, everything. It's all tantamount to health and wellbeing. Health and wellbeing isn't just about medical care.
It's that well-being, which is the big part of it. Councillor Coxhill.
Yes, I was very pleased to read on page 26, and now we, over and over again, we talk about consultations, and this is 750 comments, which is a really great number, really, when you look at the number. Over and over again, we've been pressured at Cabinet, full council, that not enough people are responding to consultation responses. And I just hope I get a reasonable number on my paper coming forward and about that statement of community involvement in the local plan. But it'd be really good to see that sort of some more numbers. And what I think is the three main reasons on 27, it's really important, the environmental impacts, and it actually goes again against the local plan. It says, I read out one of them, that's mitigating the impact of housing and commercial development to ensure we support the infrastructure and places of development considered for health and wellbeing. I think it's critical of that. We talked about the school earlier in your opening statement about building infrastructure first, and we're trying to bang this home, infrastructure first and infrastructure first, to answer these questions and these concerns. And these concerns highlighted in the document we're reading here is really important, and I provide open spaces and opportunities for people to be active and socialise in the environment. I think there are critical environmental needs that we can deliver in my paper later on, and it works with the housing. It was how that overflows in this, and how this paper can actually be underpinning what we go to a local plan, and how we're going to live and survive and thrive, as one of my colleagues used to say, in the next 20 years. Thank you. And I'm really pleased because 2013 we saw the first document. This is an evolving document. I think it's getting better and better every time that it comes through here, and it was really, we were picking quite a lot of holes in 13. I can remember going that far back about what it was actually achieving to achieve, and I think it's getting, every time it's evolving, it's getting closer and closer to working with other areas.
Thank you, Councillor Hewley.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm really quite proud of the consultation that took place. It was an awful lot of hard work for people, and I appreciate that. And I could really talk all night just on this document, but I can't, obviously, because of time. But there were supermarket drop-ins, there was, all different partners have been questioned and asked from all sorts of areas. And Councillor Johnson, 26% of our population are under 18 or 18. That's a lot of children, and all children are vulnerable anyway, but our most vulnerable children, they don't just stop having those issues and problems because they turned 18. There needs to be that transition, there needs to be that joined up approach. And you're right, where we work plays in, what we can earn plays into our health and well-being, where we can live, if we can afford to buy somewhere, all of those things affect our health and well-being.
Thank you. Anybody else for doing my tuppence? Okay. Absolutely brilliant piece of work, full stop. It's not just about what you would expect to see in a health and wellbeing report. It's community safety, it's community cohesion. That there is everything in there, because there isn't just one aspect of what we do as a local authority and what we do as a local community that builds into this. So the way it's encompassed everything is as usual, absolutely fantastic. And we always get there. We're adding life to years, not years to life, and everything else. It's actually doing everything, which is exactly what I would hope and expect. Around the corner, he says, making sure he's got his angles right. We're proudly flying the Ukrainian flag. We have Ukrainian refugees coming to Thurrock on, I'm not sure if daily basis, but certainly on a regular basis. And they're going to need help and support. It's Pride Month, and we've got on page 47 2C enhance equality and inclusive initiative. I'm not going to try that again. By promoting opportunities to bring different communities together to enhance shared experience and embed a sense of belonging. Those groups that feel marginalised for whatever reason, and they shouldn't feel marginalised in Thurrock, and the fact that some still do, shows that we need to get working on it. Because if you feel marginalised, you feel lonely. If you're feeling lonely, your mental health is going to suffer. If your mental health suffers, everything else within your life starts to suffer. Not just yours, those that are around you. And we shouldn't be in a society like that. Now, I had a very long conversation with Councillor Abbas before this meeting. I say a long conversation with, he had a long conversation at me about all of the things that he's doing. And you sort of think, right, next time it's 5:30, not 6 o'clock start for that one. Because there are so many things that Councillor Abbas is doing to bring in the communities that we know that are here, but actually make sure they feel engaged, empowered and with us, rather than just being spoken out of with or when it suits. They need to be with us 365 days a year. So this covers it really quite nicely. Community protection aspects of it really quite nicely, and the fact that we're not afraid to say, this is levelling up. It's an absolutely fantastic report. The only one thing, because I can't get away scot-free on this one. On page 46, now it may well be that this has just slipped through at a much lower level, and I hadn't noticed it either, because as you know, we both read through these together. But work with communities to reduce smoking and obesity in Thurrock. I'm not going to mention the obesity aspects of it for obvious reasons. But developing and delivering a whole system tobacco control strategy covering prevention and so on. Whilst everything covering prevention, everything else is the absolute right thing to do. I don't smoke, never smoked. I think it's a horrible habit. But as a Conservative, the whole control aspects word is a little bit... We all know what we should do to live a better life and live a longer, more productive and healthy life, including myself. I just don't do it as often as I should. But if we can change, as you go through that in your with your health colleagues, it's tobacco control. It's about tobacco advisory. It's about tobacco addiction reduction, whatever we're going to use in there. But I'm a little bit comfortable with control as a Conservative, something that we empower people to take their own choices rather than nanny state them. But other than that, very impressed.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I'll get on to that. That's not a problem. You said about flag raisings and bringing in the community. Flag raising helps raise awareness, but it can't stand alone as a way of raising awareness. We can't just put up a flag 10 minutes outside and think that we've solved our problem of inclusivity. I can't even say it myself. We definitely need Councillor Abbas some help and to get into those more minority communities that need our support, and we want to give them the support.
Yeah, absolutely. Councillor Abbas, you want to come in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, in my portfolio, we will open up this council to the communities. So the first set of meetings we're going to have is on 24th of June. So we have literally first time ever, I think, we have invited these marginalised communities, as you have mentioned in your report, seldom heard groups, So we have started, the first batch of meetings is going to have on 24th of June. So we want to engage with these communities directly. We want to hear what their issues are and how as a council and as a resident, we can work together, so for a better Thurrock.
Sorry, Councillor Bass. Councillor Healy, just want to come back on that, or are you quite happy with that?
No, I mean, that's perfect, really.
Yeah, it's certainly, it's I don't like saying it's a new year, new us. But kicking off the year with a strategy like this, where we normally just do 2 reports, would have been done probably 10 minutes ago, is really good. And it's the fact it's just so encompassing and has really covered everything. The biggest problem is that one word of the use control. Well done to you and to your officers. So I'll move back to page 25, where Cabinet is asked to review and comment on the final draft of the strategy at Appendix 1, considering the domains and goals. Are they duly noted?
Noted.
Excellent. Moving on to item 11, which is page 57 to 146, which is Integrated Care Partnership, IPC decision. Surprising enough, Councillor Hewlett.
Thank you, Chair. Lisa. In July 2021, the Government proposed key legislation that asked for more joined-up working between the NHS and local authorities to gain focus on improving health. The bill received royal assent in April this year and is now an Act of Parliament. It's time for the NHS, councils and local partners to look at how we do that and meet the new Health Act, which introduces 2 boards to deliver the integrated care system, and they're to be known as the Integrated Care Partnership and the Integrated Care Board. The ICP is an equal partnership between local authority and NHS, and will meet for the first time in July to organise governance of new working practices via what will collectively be known as founding members. I think I should add here that there were boards in place and doing a lot of this already, and joined up working and forming alliances under Better Care Fund and things. But however, they held their last meetings in June, ready to effectively restart in July and reorganise according to the new Act of Parliament, and to effectively find a way forward within the guidelines of the Government White Paper. This paper is asking us to support this role of founding member to be delegated to our Director of Public Health. I personally support this because it needs a professional with a great understanding and knowledge of health inequalities and what's needed to be done to improve health in Thurrock, as well as across the UK, really. Someone that can take their experience and working relationships with other partners within the Mid and South Essex integrated care system with them. To uphold democracy, members have a voice within the Health and Wellbeing Board, and our Director of Health works closely with this board and other directors of public health across Mid and South Essex, and is best placed to improve outcomes for Thurrock residents. The paper also asks that the draft terms of reference of the partnership be agreed, and that the legalities of the governance of the partnership are delegated to the monitoring officer, and that the Director of Adult Social Care and Housing acts as shadow on the ICB. If these draft terms of reference are accepted during the governance talks and decisions of the new board, then it's expected that chairs of health and wellbeing boards across Mid and South Essex will still be members of the ICB, thus giving residents via members a voice at the table. 5.2 of the report on page 59 states that the portfolio holders for health, air quality, adult social care and communities have been consulted. Due to recent changes in portfolio holders, I'd just like to check that, as I requested, both Councillor Jeffries and Councillor Abbas have been consulted on the content and are also happy to proceed as I am. And obviously Cabinet.
In Councillor Jeffrey's absence, I did actually check with him before he was away. Is that concludes? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coxall.
Yeah, I can see the reasons for the founding partners, and I can see the integrated partnerships. But local councils are a democracy, and it's very difficult for the NHS to get used to how the democracy works. And the elected representatives are here. We are the representative, and send the Health and Wellbeing Board. And it's I do see the founding fathers, but we do have some concerns that in cabinet we're here as the elected representative for the people who elected us, and now as a to try and bring in the partnerships and bring the council working closer to the NHS, there's got to be some sort of democratic involvement as well as we go when it's set up and afterwards. And I just want to make sure that we can when it comes back, if it comes back here, we can actually have the partners and the directors. There's no aspersions on the officers because there's a professional time as how democracy works, and the Health and Wellbeing workers work really well when it came in 2012, I think it's right. And now we're trying to set up something even closer relationship between the local authority and the NHS with the new care bill. I think I'd like to see how other integrated partnerships and work care partnerships are being planned others, and how much democratic involvement across the country is going to be, and who in there from others in the same ICP is going to be from our other local authority coordinators are going to do, because especially some of the local authorities are at the lower tiers. So it's just making sure they come back to us before we make this forever and there's no democratic representation like yourself and make sure.
Councillor Hewden?
Thank you, Leader. I totally agree with you there. I did actually, before I came here this evening, I had an update meeting with Mid and South East Essex, and Claire Paniker was talking about the new board from the NHS perspective and how they're going to be doing that. And I said to her that I felt that the Health and Wellbeing Board was missed from her presentation and the due regard that they need to take. But she reassured me emphatically that yes, they are. It was just because it was a quick slide. She hadn't actually put all the information up there. But yes, they are definitely going to be working with us. And yes, we will be included. The other attack that, if you like, that I've got going at the moment is that we have just reviewed the Health and Wellbeing Board, and we will have a round table discussion about that review where we'll be sitting with our NHS partners looking at how we can move forward together and how within the Health and Wellbeing Board itself we could maybe change our working practices and build those relationships so that we do understand each other better and that whole democratic process.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hewden. Before I do my bit, we've got Councillor Johnson put his hand up.
Thanks, Councillor, for this. This report's not all about finance. I know that, but just looking at page 76, and it does make me feel happier to see that there's going to be faster financial alignment and pooling, and that they're going to pool their budgets so we can achieve shared outcomes. Because quite often, some of the awful decisions that have to be made sometimes that come to this cabinet are financial, and I do believe that there is a better way of us working together financially and making it not such a burden on us. And I'm really pleased to see that in the report. Thank you.
I don't think there's anyone within the NHS or the council that don't realise how COVID has affected access to primary care and the knock-on effect that that's had on everybody's health and well-being. And so there is a huge focus of working together because we need our budgets to go further. And the only way we can do that is to keep people healthier at primary care stage to stop them having to go into more, intrusive measures, I suppose, to our health. It's better for everybody. The NHS are very aware of that as well, and they are looking at that joined-up working practice. I think the Better Care Fund was a start to that, and I'd kind of like to see that grow within this.
Excellent, thank you. Sorry, I did actually need that to try and sort of just square something up in my head as well. Same similar concerns to Councillor Cockshaw. Anybody else got anything to add before I do my bit? So I do share Councillor Cockshaw's concern about the whole democracy aspects of it. Okay, they bring billions of pounds as an organisation nationally to the front as do local authorities. The things that we do, and as Councillor Johnson actually just quite nicely alluded to, some of the things that we have to do that we don't want to do, which is based solely on making numbers add up at the end of the year, something they don't have to do so much. We need to make sure that there is that alignment and that understanding that we're not doing it to spite them, we're doing it because to a point there isn't much choice. What it is really, how do you cut that cake? There's only so much cake that we can cut. Rye bread or whatever we have to use now. But I really am. I'm just a little bit uncomfortable with it just being passed just direct to the officer. So on where we've got 1.4, we've got actually a really quite shadow ball being set up and everything else. So you can see that and the way it's moving forward, but that kind of seems to be missing on 1.2. So more than happy, obviously, for Director of Public Health, so that's the Council's found representative and so on. But I think before any decisions are made and the makeup of the board is created, before it's made final, that's brought back here by the Director to explain who's on the board, how it's working and everything else, to see where we are. So if we can add that as a recommendation, an add-on to the recommendation rather than an additional recommendation, Matt. So just add on there that it be brought back to the first available Cabinet meeting after they've made those decisions, after they've made those recommendations, before they move forward and we can ratify that decision.
Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that is how the process would work anyway, but yeah, it's good to have that documented. That joined up working approach between all of us, I think, is gradually filtering into everywhere, and it is only a bonus that we can start to work together and bring this round.
Sorry.
So I was just going to say, I think sometimes maybe, and I don't mean it in a detrimental way, the NHS may be a little bit behind our curve in how proactive we are with engaging with community and understanding the support mechanisms that the voluntary services give to us. But the NHS have woken up to how that is really going to help them to move forward with preventative care and primary care. And so I think there's a lot to be learnt on both sides, which is why I really want the relationship of Health and Wellbeing Board to become critical friends as well as accountability, rather than people feeling criticised. We're working together for the better.
100%. And let's look back a couple of years where we decided to fund the fall alarms. So those that qualify and need them, get them for free. The whole aspect of that is so we reduce the amount of times they do fall, that they are in a full position. Every hour adds a day onto medical care. So that saves the NHS money. So a little bit of split of that. Suddenly we've got free alarms for those that need them. So it's preventative work on a very small scale. I'm sure there's a million and one things that we can do together that's going to start bringing that down. And I think to make sure that is we just get that extra add-on to it. Councillor Cockshaw?
Yeah, I reinforce Councillor Johnson's point and the leaders that working in partnership does mean that between the NHS and our partners, but there is a difference. The massive difference is the NHS can overspend and is legally allowed to. And we, as democratic, at the end of the year have to set a balanced budget there, and has to go to a cabinet paper, and we have to come to a full council in February. And I know the officers will be firm to make sure that we can't spend in this partnership our money when we haven't got it, and we can't do that. But that does need, because we as a cabinet we're responsible for that. If there is an overspend, they have to find it from somewhere else to give them the partnership. I'm sure that won't happen in that, but that's why I think I'm just making sure that there is an end and a democratic bit outside health and wellbeing. But let's make sure around the law to make sure it's fit and proper.
Yeah, absolutely. And funnily enough, Ian, obviously our Director of Adult Social Care, and I had that same conversation that the NHS can legally overspend. We cannot. This is our budget. We've got to make it go as far as we can, and they can't overspend our budget. We've got to work this together. And we can't be on the receiving end of issues that have been created perhaps by certain areas within the NHS where it's not quite working properly yet. If it's had a knock-on effect to us, we can't keep picking that up without working together.
Yeah, 100%. Any other comments before we move to the recommendations? No? So there are 4 recommendations on page 57, 1.1 to 1.4, with 1.2 amended as outlined, Matt. You'll be in a much better position to put it than I, so it'll be reflected in the minutes and indeed the amended recommendations. So those 4, are they all agreed?
Agreed.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to item 12, statement of community involvement on page 147 to 198. Councillor Cockshaw.
This is a short statement. When we took over this portfolio right from the beginning of my first full council conversation, I've been in the same portfolio now for many years, about we should actually do make sure we have listened to the local plan, listen to constituents, and try and get as much engagement as we can, because this is not the council's plan, this is the residents' plan that we're trying to build here in the future. And we just discussed our children and infrastructure first, and the comments which I mentioned earlier is very, very similar to what this is. And this is a statement of community engagement. It's a small item, very quick, but it's actually really critical to us and how we move forward in our local plan. And that we don't have to go to consultation on this, as you read, Cabinet members, but I think it's good practice to go to that to reinforce what we've said all the time. And if there is any issues coming out of this, then we will certainly make adjustments to that and go and move forward at a pace. We do need to get this local plan over the line.
Thank you, Councillor Cockshaw. Councillor Head.
Thanks, Leader, and thank you, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Regeneration, for your report. Still feels quite good. So, statement of community involvement. I think this is incredibly important, because I think you'd be hard pushed to find any family across this borough, whether it be grandparents, parents, or guardians, from whoever, who doesn't have a view on their children being allowed to live local to them as they grow up. I think everyone recognises. I think I was hearing Martin Lewis at the weekend talking about the amount of houses that the country needs to build and everything else. We need to do them in the right way. But part of doing it in the right way is by having the conversation with the public and allowing them to have that contribution to what that looks like. So, like you say, this isn't something we might need to do, but it's certainly something we would want to do, and very much approve of the approach of getting people's involvement. Frankly, the community sees far more than what you can do from Microsoft Teams or from a building like this. Frankly, it gives residents a good, sound opportunity to make their views known, and it just structures the way that looks. And like it's very hard. We've never quite cracked this whole consultation piece. It is very hard. Life is very busy, and I just hope that the consultation's easy and fluid enough to be able to do pretty quickly when people get in from work and all that sort of stuff. Then I can obviously happily work alongside you with that in my new brief.
Yeah, it's a standard thing that we don't have to do this, and this is a very dry document. But like I also mentioned earlier, 750 responses to the consultation. I don't think we're going to get anywhere near that. Local plan still hasn't, but there will be active as we go into the local plan, and that we've tried to go to the residents and make it quick, simple, easy forms, and take the comments even if they're not in the same right brief. So that at least them comments can be used and concise about it, even if they're not filling the questionnaire in. It's the actual person responding regardless of that. If you talk about that, and we talk about small point on the local plan, which you've mentioned slightly, let's look at the borough. The borough is an extremely young borough. You've mentioned the young children here. You just have a look. So I've lost count how many new schools. I used to say 10 new schools in 10 years. And we only had a new school pass last year. That means that in the first term, 2010 to 2015, like so if we get from then onwards, we built a lot of primary schools. 2015 onwards, we've been building senior schools and secondary schools. You see one behind us, which is moving into the new building very shortly. And then what we've got to do now is in this local plan is build. House homes for them kids that are coming out of them schools. In the last 12 years now, there is now homes needed for these children, our children in this area. We've got you'll see very shortly. We've mostly got the youngest population in the region or the area around us. Now that does mean that also mean the need on housing, a need for our young people. It's not for anything else, and I think that's what this become for the local plan is. We've got to build some homes for our children as well, And we've built the school, we've built the education, and now we need to build a home for them. Very much like from the Second World War, build homes for heroes after the Second World War. And we've got to build homes for these like our next generation.
I've got Councillor Head coming forward and then Councillor Hewlin.
Thanks, Councillor Cockshaw and Leader. I completely agree, and I think if you look at most people that certainly live around this part of the estuary, most of us are from a heritage which didn't necessarily come from Thurrock historically, and have ended up living in Thurrock because of, you know, there weren't enough property in London, you know, that's certainly my case, or that was an affordable nature. And, you know, I think there's probably a lot of people around the room which have got that heritage. And ultimately the question is, do we want to carry on doing that? Do I want my daughter moving further out of Thurrock? Do you want your son going further out of Thurrock? And the answer is no. We need to do it in the right way, and that's why this is so important. If we get this right and we allow residents to have those contributions, it can really make for a meaningful thing, which avoided what happened, like you said, 50, well, it's more longer than that now, isn't it, 70 years ago.
I'll come back on that. It's actually important. It's community involvement. It's actually their plan. It's the community's plan. It's not the Thurrock Council plan. It's been banging on about it since 2016. It's very difficult because it does become torturous. We can see what's happened to local authorities around us, and I hope we don't have that, because it's everything, and it becomes, then we don't end up, we have it done to, not done with, and that's what we don't want. We want to build. You've heard the earlier they're talking about green spaces. The local plan is not about homes, it's about the environment you live in. I bang on about live, work and play here, and I've been saying now, consume your own smoke. If Thurrock can have somewhere to work, we offered last week 5,000 new jobs in TEP, what we ought to build the homes for them, great employees and the new people coming out of our education. We've had so much in education out here, and so much. We've got a new college sitting at the back of us here. We've got discussing a new university with a new cabinet member earlier. We've got to then now build and look at good green spaces, good homes, and a good environment and a good place to live. That helps your well-being and helps everything. And I don't want to end up with, what did they put here? And look at that horrible building here. What do we do that for? What do we lose that green space for? There's got to be a good reason to lose a green space. I live here as much as anyone else, and I don't want to build a horrible place. I want to build a better place for living in this area.
Thank you. Just before I bring in Councillor Hewlin, I'd just like to confirm that none of us on Cabinet here today were born in Thurrock. You're London?
Yes, London Borough.
London? London? Castle Point? Thanks, Dan. Castle Point. So, you know, it's we've got to remember that, you know, we do hear this an awful lot of, you know, oh, it's built for the people of London and so on. It's actually not. It's built for Councillor Hebbs's daughter. It's built for, you know, Councillor Coxall's son and so on. But I know you want to say a lot more because I know you wish to. And if you don't, I'll cover it.
Thank you, Leader. I mean, getting community involvement in this is paramount. Joining up the local plan, how we live, how we work, with health and wellbeing strategy. That's why I said before they are the two highest level strategies. They do need to be intertwined at all times. But really my plea was to Councillor Hebb when we were talking about consultation. He said, let's make it easy and slick for people when they get home from work, and I'm assuming he means online. Don't underestimate the power of getting out and chatting to people in the town centre, in the shopping centres. Actually, how much adult safeguarding picked up by dropping at a supermarket with housing issues and other issues. It is vitally important to actually get out and talk to people.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Bass wants to come in, and then Councillor Bass.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you for your report. I think community involvement is very, very important. But at the same time, we need to reach out these communities. Obviously, Thurrock is changing, is more diverse now. So we need to reach out different communities. And particularly, as Councillor Deborah Hewlin has mentioned, so we need to make this process very, very simple. Sometimes it's so complicated. So many residents, they complain, like, you know, when they go online, the system is so complicated. They cannot even get through the initial registration. So we have to make this simple, plain English, and kind of where residents can go and have their say rather than getting involved in these IT complications. So I think when we talk about community involvement, we also need to keep in mind the process of this involvement has to be very simple and straightforward.
Councillor Coxhill?
Yeah, I can answer that. And it's exactly, I'd answer Councillor Healy and Councillor Bass's questions there quite easy, because when I first took over here, we then went outreach and we started the tents and the community involvement about the phase 1 and phase 2, and we had the clothesline that you actually write on a pants or your shirt if you thought it was rubbish and you was pants, and you put a shirt up if you liked what was happening. So pants, these sort of things make it easier for someone to actually get involved and understand it. It can be, local town and planning consultations can be the most tedious, long things. And I insisted from the previous 2 directors we had that we make it as easy as possible. And if they can't write it properly into the same right and answer the question they want to answer, and it's not a question and they give a statement and feed that in, because that is much better. So we don't have the long 19-page. There will be a tediously long page documents going through the local plan to get through the statutory consultations, because this is planning. Well, let's get away with it. But we can make it easier for her to feed that in, and that's our job to transfer what they say to us, what they say to the planning teams, to feed it into the local plan, to make it easier. And I will promise that, and we will make sure that, I work with you to make sure that all communities are there, because regardless of being born here, like we just talked to the leader, there are parts here, everyone has made their home here because they like the borough and what's happening, and we've just got to make a home for these people.
Absolutely, and to continue making a home for those that are already here.
Yeah.
Councillor Spillman.
Did Councillor have a linked point to that he wants to go first?
Only that I think that there's a piece of work to do. The more I think about this, about not just for consultations for the purpose of doing consultations, but you raise a good point, Councillor Hewlin, and you know we all lead busy lives, but you know we as councillors we find the time to go and do these things. But you know I am conscious that some people are getting up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, getting in at 8 o'clock, and the thought of going into a town hall is frankly the last thing on their mind because they want something to eat and see their family. That said, we need to make it accessible, don't we? So find the right time where it works and everything else. And I think there's some people that do depend on the whole digital access, but I think there's something for us that we can pick up and have a look at together. Perhaps you and I can have a look at that, Councillor Abbas, together. Haven't got to put it down as a recommendation, but we can do a bit of work on that together, perhaps, yeah? Not just for this consultation, but everything.
Excellent. I want to bring Councillor Spillman in because I did write his name down earlier, and then Councillor Hewlin again.
Shall I go? Yeah. I'm like the rest of this cabinet. I am not scared of the local plan. I'm excited about the local plan. I'm not going to, just like the rest of the cabinet, we're not going to be defensive about this local plan. This is a fantastic opportunity to, you know, deliver a fantastic new future for Thurrock. And I know that the cabinet member who's going to be delivering this, there might be some cabinet members around the country that can't sleep at night through angst about the local plan, but we've got a cabinet member who is really passionate about delivering a fantastic local plan, and I think that will come out in the way that we present it. And that's why this community engagement is so important, because we're selling a great we want to sell a great future to the people of Thurrock, and that's why we need to get as much engagement and bring people into the process as we can, because it's I mean, watching some of the shambles go on, you know, in the local region with their local plan, that's the opposite of the approach that this cabinet are going to be taking, and I'm really proud to be part of it. To be honest, I'm excited about it.
Yes, there will be difficult times to come. There will be sleepless nights, I can assure you. But I think we're doing it in the right thing. And Councillor Coxhill has made it really clear this is to do this with all of us, not to some of us. So that's really good. Councillor Hewlin, sorry.
Yeah, it's just come back to Councillor Hebb really again. I'm sorry. I fully appreciate the easy access of doing it when you can online. When we do take it out of that and put it out into the communities. I don't necessarily think that, like with planning, where you go to a community hall and you say we'll be there from this time to that term, you're asking people to come to you. Go to the people. I'm saying go to the people.
Yeah, I agree. If you look at the first consultations and the second ones, the local plan team actually just saw an event and we hired a van, put the tent up. You've seen the local plan tent. Doesn't say local plan. It talks about our futures and bits and pieces. But that is it's even that gets people nervous when coming up and talking about planning. It's not about that. It's about what do you want to see, and that's where stage 1, stage 2, and this I hope this is just about a consultation on the consultation. This is no, this is not that. We're coming to the back end of the year and there will be mass consultations about that, and it's got to be, because I think it's gone wrong previously with local plans, where the consultation has been unwieldy, unreasonable. I mean, people don't understand. It's just about, it ends up driving down a horrible hole about houses. This is not like let's not talk about that. Let's talk about communities, and then talk about homes. It's about that. What does that community want, and how do we get to that community wanting that? How do we improve that community? How do we improve that pool? How do we improve that open space? How do we protect that greenbelt space that we really want to protect for the next 50 years? How do we think that greenbelt space is not greenbelt? How many times have we heard these things? It's more about the urban environment than it is about homes. Homes are important because we need to build homes, as I said to you. But it's about wider issues than that, and the local plan sets the agenda, and everyone, and then the developers here and landowners know where they're going, and they have a set 20 years, and we know what we can do in the next 20 years.
Absolutely, and we've spent the past 6 years repeating the same mantra: in infrastructure before investment. Sorry, infrastructure first. For expansion. So you've got, I spoke earlier today about a school that's going in to help with the infrastructure deficit at the moment. And we all see it, and I'm not going to point fingers, but no one in our group. It doesn't matter if it's one house, 400, 4,000. We can't do that. We can't support what we've got already. Well, we all understand we can't support what we've got already. That has been decades and decades. Not this administration, not the previous administration, not us before that, not them before that, and so on, back in infinitum. This has been happening to us. Some of it has been imposed on us by the Development Corporation, those that have been around long enough to remember them. And we've ended up in a situation where we haven't got what we need in our communities. When we move through, this is just a statement about how we're going to actually consult with people, yes, but let's start getting that message out now. This is not about saying, no, we can't have it because we can't have any more houses. Do you know what? Houses, like they're feeling in perfectly with the PCRL housing that's supposed to come along, is that there's a new doctor's service, integrated medical centre that will be coming. There'll be a new station, there'll be a new bypass road. There's going to be a town centre. There's going to be a pier with an oyster bar, and everything else. That's what they talk about. They don't talk about the couple of thousand houses that are going to be used to pay for that infrastructure change. And actually, that's because we've got it right. That just now has to be delivered, but it's what we need. The way that we go forward with that is to make sure that we know how we're going to consult with the community. I remember the last time, I think I've still got the box because it's too heavy to lift, of paperwork where there was 500 pages of paper to go through to read before you had 140 odd questions, just to decide if you want to go forward with the next stage. This is not going to happen. It's not going to be questions that give you one answer and one answer only. It's going to be proper consultation. Proper consultation, I will really implore with residents now, don't just say no. Because you're saying no to houses, you're also saying no to the improvements that are going to be needed in your community. The changes. Both Councillor Hebb and I have industrial units slap bang in the middle of our communities, which need to be moved, but not too far that people can't get to work. There needs to be that balance. All of this is going to come forward in the local plan. It's not about, the Tories want to deliver X thousand houses. We need to deliver, irrespective of political party, X thousand houses for the children, for the people in this room, and their grandchildren as we move forward. So before we move on to that, Councillor Coxon.
Yeah. There's another point there which you just mentioned. It's just about communities. It's also about the employers. I was with business a board with businessmen across South Essex today, and every business in there said they're struggling, and the most important thing to get employees to work there is getting public transport to get the employees to work. And they were moaning away for how we get buses, how do we get walk to work, and how we get this, how to get there. And that is the offer that pub businesses, and we've got more and more businesses here. We look at DP World and the Stamford Station regulator, and it is a really important of how we get people there. And that is part of the local plan as well. And that's a legitimate concern and a consultation this week. How do we improve our public transport needs to make sure we get to work as well as get to our new homes? And that is a critical thing as well. So everyone just goes down this rabbit hole of housing. It's back to everything, and including the employers for them jobs to getting the employees to it. I spoke to a company, large company in Purfleet only 2 weeks ago, and they said they cannot get a bus, cannot get any employees, cannot get parking there. And I said, well, it's a local plan issue. It's been built without any access to it, a new built factory. So that's the sort of things, bad local planning and good local planning.
So I'm going to draw this in, obviously, because this is about the way that we're going to go forward with the stuff that we are talking about as we go for the future. But if we don't mention this now, it will be, this is typical. All they want to do is give you questions that you can only answer in one way and everything, which is not what we're here for. We're here to listen to the community, but listen to what the community needs and what the community wants now. And as we move forward, some of us have been fortunate enough to go to other local areas where we've seen thousands and thousands of houses built in new villages, towns and so on. First thing that's gone in is new schools, new shopping centres and everything else, and then the houses are built. So the existing community can buy into that. This is the kind of thing consultation is there for. So we have learned from other places. We have got an excellent cabinet member for Regen and communities and for health. What we did earlier about building communities and building health and wellbeing in. We've got excellent housing, we've got excellent right across the board. So let's make sure that moving forward, everyone takes that into consideration, stops with the, oh, it's this number of houses, we can't support it, and just saying no. Thurrock's going to have to move and grow, else there won't be the growth that we need internally. We can't ask people not to move to Thurrock. We want people to move to Thurrock with some of their skills. More importantly, we want our residents in Thurrock to be able to move in Thurrock and have those skills, so we don't need to import them. So with that, recommendation 1.1, page 147, are we all agreed? Agreed. Excellent. So we move to the final and possibly the most uninteresting aspects of the evening, which is my report, which is the appointment to outside bodies, and the recommendations that nominations to outside bodies, statute and panels be approved as Appendix 1. As we go through Appendix 1, just for clarity, the appendix that here reflects the current, up until the last election, who was sitting on these boards. So we'll see former Councillor Van Day sitting on the Mid and South Essex Foundation Trust Council of Governors. Obviously, he's no longer a councillor, but it needs to be where we were. I'm going to place Councillor Polly into that role. I think she'll be fantastic because of her personal background. And then Impulse Leisure, we've also got Councillor Cockshaw already on there by council. It will be Councillor Jeffries on there from Cabinet. And I believe everybody else remains exactly the same. Yes, they do. I know it might be the fastest one. Indeed, that's normally the biggest one we normally do at this time of the year. So before I close the meeting, I would like to thank, I should have said this right at the beginning. I'd like to thank Matt for being here as the officer representative. To volunteer to come in to do this as part of his personal improvement is absolutely fantastic. Not that he's had to have much input, which is probably he's quite happy with, but to control us lot if we were put out of line is brilliant. So thank you very much, Matt. I hope we behaved ourselves, and it's something you can add on to your CV / memoirs if you get that far. So thank you very much for doing that for us. So with that, I bring the meeting to a close at 20:10. Thank you very much.